Hello, people. How's it going? It's still raining outside. Raining, thundering. I haven't seen any lightning yet, but it is raining and thundering. Yes, four of these seven books I'm going to be them showing are from not England or well, English release subjects. So I figured. Why not? I do need another cup though. Come on. First of all, I've read this novel. I like Jane Eyre. I don't want to hear it. Charlotte Bronte's impassionate novel is the love story of Jane Eyre, a plain yet spirited governess and her employer, the arrogant, brooding Mr. Rochester, published in 1847. I like this book. This is probably my favorite of the Bronte sister books. I like this book. I don't want to hear it. I read this years ago, but I do like this book. I did like this book. I still do. Worth reading. Literature needs to be read and not this nonsense that gets written today. I've never read this. My friend Natalie is reading it, so I figured I might as well buy my own copy too. So talk about it at some point. I've read where some people think this is a ghost story, a gothic horror story, a love story, but I've never read it, so I couldn't tell you. There are a few more convincing, less sentimental accounts of the passionate love from Wuthering Heights. Oh, that sounds exciting. This is the story of a savage, tormented foundling Heathcliff, and not the cat. Sad, let's say. Who falls wildly in love with Catherine Earnshaw, the daughter of his benefactor, and the violence and the misery that results from their thwarted longing for each other. Sounds riveting. Well, so yeah, I have heard this is more of a gothic horror story or a ghost story, but we'll see if I ever get around to reading it. And yes, I have read Jane Austen. I like Emma, Lord Garabi. I've never read Pride and Prejudice. I haven't read Persuasion, but I have read those other two books. I have Jane Austen's early. I have a Penguin Classics book on Jane Austen's earlier works, and I mean early, the really beginning stuff. Should I go get it? I'm gonna go get it anyway. It's my video. I can do what I want. Let's see. There's Jane Eyre. Oh, right there in front of me. Oh, look, there's more light. I bought this a while ago, but Love and Friendship and Other Useful Writings of Jane Austen. I like Jane Austen. Believe it or not, I don't have a problem with reading Jane Austen. I like Jane Austen. She was a good writer. But I liked Emma and I liked Lord Garabi. Those are probably the two I've read. I haven't read that one yet, though. I haven't read this book. This is a Joe Bohr book. In 1944, Aachen, Germany became the first city in Hitler's Reich to be besieged by the Allies. The U.S. Army expected a quick victory, but the town's citizens waged an incredible battle for survival. In fierce defiance of fascist order to evacuate, they stayed behind to defend their homes. Ravaged by Americans, hounded by the fanatical SS, they were caught in a deadly crossfire. For 6 grisly weeks, they put up the bloodiest, most bitter fighting on the Western Front. Here is the riveting story of men, women, and children who put guts into call the Nazis their enemy. Should find a decent map. I'm going to show them. I don't know if you can even see that, but let's make it a little closer. Can you see Aachen? I don't know if you can see it or not, but I like Wardrobe books. Wardrobe books are very, that's what about that and war books. These are the second best series of World War II books you can find. They do deal with other wars too, Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the Second World War. Oh, and the Falkland Island War. There is a Joe Bohr book on the Falkland Island War. This is Charles Whiting. I like these books. Those are some of the very first World War II books I read was Job and Benton War books. But pretty sure I don't have that one. Next author, I have his book on Galileo and his book on Saladin and Richard the Lionheart. This one is The Dogs of God, Columbus, the Inquisition, and the Defeat of the Moors by John Ruskin Jr. He's a very good author. By the way, Warriors of God is the one about Saladin and Richard the Lionheart. Let's see. From the acclaimed author of Warriors of God comes a riveting account of the pivotal events of 1492 when towering political ambitions, horrific religious excesses, and a drive toward international conquest changed the world forever. J.S. Ruskin Jr. brings to life the epic story of Spain's efforts to consolidate its own burgeoning power by throwing off the yoke of the Vatican, by waging war on the remaining Moors in Granada. I'll get the word out eventually. Granada. And unleashing the Inquisitional Torquemada on Spain's Jewish and converse population. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella attained enough power and wealth to fund Columbus's expedition to America and to chart a Spanish destiny separate from that of Italy. It's pretty good. I mean, he is a good author. He's a very good author. I do like him. I liked his book on Galileo. I liked his book on the Crusades, which was Saladin and Richard the Lionheart, as I keep saying. But no, he's a good author. I like his book. I mean, got an excellent book. I think it's going to take very long. Mythology of the British Isles. I've read half of this book. It is a fun read. It is a lot of fun to read. It does talk about mythologies and folklore, and it points out the different kind of directions bad history went when some of the writers of the early centuries roved. And it's a very good book about the mythology. Not actual history. It does talk about that a little bit. But this is literally the history that really was mythology. I mean, it does talk about a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, let's see. Here are the chapters. Which one of those chapters now? I mean, it talks about, if you want to learn the English mythology, British Isles, and Cornwall, and Wales, and Scotland, and I think even some of Irish history, this is the book for you. From the misty centuries of British and Irish prehistory to the heights of the Dark Ages comes tales of giants. It's interesting. Fairy folk, druids, saints, from King Lear to King Arthur to Fingal, Beowulf, Gwyndolin, and Guinevere. These are the characters who shaped the nation. But who were they really? In Mythology of the British Isles, Geoffrey Ashe explores those compelling and ancient stories, seeing how they have taken fresh significance as historical and archaeological research has uncovered the truth behind each legend. It's not a very big book, but it's good. It is a good, easy read. It's a very easy read. It's not very complicated. They tell good stories, and they don't complicate it. Well, some of the names are hard to pronounce, but that is because they're not written in Queen's English. Not the Queen I'm aware of, anyway. A good book. And because I was watching the King's speech, I ordered this book. I read this book a while ago, and I liked it. He was a very interesting guy. He really was not made to be king. He was not really groomed to be king. He was never intended to be king. Edward VIII had to go because he was a Nazi sympathizer, and he was. The movie is very good at portraying him. This book is very good about talking about Queen Elizabeth II, his father, him. It's a good book. It's not very long, but it does, I like this. I like this book. It's a very good book. I do enjoy. He was a very interesting king. He was the right king at the right time in British history during Second World War. I mean, he had a great prime minister in Churchill. Churchill really was the right man for the right job at the right time. He was the right person for the right time and the right job. His Edward would have done something, probably surrendered the first shot. He didn't. He became a king. Because he was not brought up to be king. He was never meant to ever be the king. But he was a good king. He was a decent human being. He was a decent king. Last book, not on British history, on French history, sort of. Check this, yeah. I'm about halfway done with this book. I like this book. This is a very interesting book. The only problem I might have with it is I don't really get a sense that what he was doing, there was a world war happening around him when he was doing all his diving and doing all his figuring out how to create an aqualung and a few other things. He was an interesting guy. He was driven for one thing and one thing only, and that was to explore the ocean. I'm at the part where they just got the Calypso. I'm in the middle of the book. They've just got the Calypso. They've just went on its first maiden voyage. It's a pretty good book. I mean, for basically what it is, not very big. I like it so far. It was interesting. Driven, as I said. I have one of his books on the Octopi. I used to watch this TV show all the time with my mom. It was always fun to watch. You have to read the book because it's written well, but to me, it's almost like it's missing something. I don't know how to explain it without making it sound bad because I don't mean to. It is a book worth reading. He's an interesting guy, but the same breath, it's like, okay, there are a lot more other things happening outside of him that aren't really discussed as if they don't really impact him. The Second World War impacts him, but it doesn't seem to be a whole lot, really. I mean, it's a good book. His brother, unfortunately, was a collaborator. That part is mentioned. His brother was a collaborator on the Nazis. It is a good book. If you want to learn about scuba diving, if you want to learn about the science behind what happens to the human body when it scuba dives and what it has to go through, and chemistry and this, that, and the other, this is the book for you. You will learn a lot about scuba diving and about diving and about the early aqualungs and the early bathyspheres and the Calypso, of course, and about him, of course, and the people who and his wife. And it's a good story. I just wish it had more of sort of give me more of a feel of the impact of what was happening around him. Because a lot of this book takes place in the beginning, and only half this book is during World War II. I mean, almost half. And I don't get the impression that that's happening. I do, but I don't, if that makes any sense. I know it's happening because it's mentioned. But I don't know if it really, I don't get the feel that it impacted him. At least I don't get that feel. But it's a good book, though. I would recommend it. It's all the books. There are no more. I haven't had a chance to buy very many books lately. But anyway. Well, if you know anybody who would like to know about these books, like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know. Thank you for watching. Behave yourself. Get a thunder? It's thunder. Oh, well. I've been doing that. Well, I keep saying every time I've had done a video, I think every video I've done up to this point has been raining. Or about to rain. But anyway, behave yourselves, people, because you know I'm not going to. Later.